Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Members, the question now is at part 1, as amended, stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. We now come to debate on Clause 12, Part 2. The question is that Part 2 stand part. The Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Mr Chairman, well, in the absence of being able to speak on the important subpart Part 1, I'll take a call on subpart 2, Amendment to the Credit Contracts and Consumer Finance Act. And all these amendments here in the application of the Commerce Act relate back, of course, to subpart 1, where we have provisions relating to the acquisition of information from a foreign jurisdiction and our obligation, of course, through reciprocity, to provide information to the relevant regime in that country. And the issue is not only in relation to the Credit Contracts and Consumer Finance Act, but in fact in relation to any piece of legislation. What will we be obliged to provide, and what will we be trading off, Mr Chairman? Because it said here in one of the provisions that, quote, the provision of the information or assistance will not significantly prejudice New Zealand's international trade interests. We have to assume that the Commerce Commission is satisfied that New Zealand businesses are not compromised in any way, and it is all well and good to have such an arrangement and a reciprocal arrangement, but I have to say with some pride that there are not many countries around the world that have such sound, such ethical and such consistent systems as we do here in New Zealand, and I think that's something that each and every one of us can be proud of. The problem is, if we're dealing with jurisdictions and we are obliged to provide information, be it on the Credit Contracts and Consumer Finance Act or any other, then we may in fact be compromising the trade obligations and in fact objectives of this country. And so I would ask the Minister and the Chair maybe to clarify that if in the event that we are asked for such information, be it on this particular Act referred to here in subpart 2 or any other Act, will the government make a call in the best interests of New Zealand? Because I have to say, we can look around for examples of where the government stood up, where they think they might want to protect New Zealanders. Take, for example, and it does relate to a situation that might arise through subpart 2. Take, for example, the government having to make a call.
Part 2, not subpart.
Part 2, sorry, Mr.
Subpart 2.
Sorry?
We're on part 2.
Part 2.
Clause
yes.
12, not
Clause
subpart
12, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your guidance there. And I would like to say that if the government is prepared to make a call, then it probably would have done so on the issue of pork importation. And I know it's a bit of a stretch, but the question is, will the national government make the calls in arrangements of reciprocity with other jurisdictions that uphold and protect the rights of New Zealanders? And I think most people in this House come to Parliament because they want to do the best thing for New Zealand. I mean, while we have trade obligations, we need to ensure that we do the right thing. Mr. Chairman, as you know, Part 2, of course, relates to fees, and of course this government has been rabid, I'd say is the best word, on fees and costs, claiming, of course, that they're reducing them across the board. The reality is they have pretty much pushed up fees and costs on every single part of central government jurisdiction.
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. The time has come for me to report progress.
The House is resumed. Mr. Chairman,
Mr Speaker, the committee has considered the Crown Entities Reform Bill and reports it with amendment and split into the following bills: New Zealand Public Health and Disability Amendment Bill, Mental Health Commission Amendment Bill, Charities Amendment Bill number 2. The committee has also considered the Commerce Commission International Cooperation and Fees Bill and reports it with progress. Mr Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
Question is that the report be adopted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The bills that have passed to committee stage are set down for third reading next sitting day, and the Commerce Commission International Cooperation and Fees Bill is set down for further consideration in committee next sitting day. And the House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow.